Welcome to LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Kelly Ruta. Kelly, are you ready to do this?
I am so ready, George. Let's do this.
Let's go. Kelly is a former clinical psychotherapist, helping to facilitate massive psychological breakthroughs and fundamental skill building. She's the CEO of Kelly Ruta International and a CEO develop strategist. Kelly, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Oh, I appreciate you asking about the personal stuff because I think sometimes we forget about that, right? So, first and foremost, mom of two teenage boys, 18 and 15. I don't think I have to expand on that. Anybody who has them knows. That pretty much speaks for itself. I've been with my husband 22 years. I was a clinical psychotherapist for 20 years, and 7 years ago, I left what I thought was going to be a lifelong career to serve in a bigger, better way. I saw a huge gap in the online space for people doing real, actual expert science-based personal development work in the business building world. So it made a leap of faith. And here I am 7 years later, happy and really grateful that I made that leap. But the flip side, right, George, as there always is a flip side, is that, you run into people on social media, you run into people, on video or whatever, and you get a snapshot. But the truth is, I've had PTSD and mental health challenges my entire adult life. I also have a chronic, acute, incurable illness, physical illness that I deal with every single day. And you wouldn't know that by looking at me or just kind of bumping into me at an event, but this is the truth of what goes on behind the curtain for a lot of business owners. And it's part of what drives my work.
Nice. Not good. Not good to have PTSD. Not good to have a chronic acute physical illness. What do you have PTSD from?
I have PTSD from early childhood sexual abuse. And I know that's uncomfortable for people to hear, but I want people to get comfortable because the numbers are astounding. I'm certainly not unique or one of few. There are millions of people globally who just kind of deal with this every single day. And when it happens very early in life, changes your brain, changes your neurology, changes a lot of things. And you have to learn to cope with. And fortunately, now we have a lot more ways to treat it in order to, have the happy life that you deserve.
So, amen. So the problem with being somebody who is helping other human beings to achieve success, but not having the scientific clinical background that you have, what's missing?
Oh, so many things, George. We don't have the time, but let me give you the bullet points. So number one, I see this big trend in coaching and consulting that if I did something or I got through something, that means I'm qualified to teach you or to help you to do it. And my answer is no, are not, especially when it comes to psychology or physical health. We see some really scary trends. And so what it did was, my own experiences inspired me to get properly educated, properly trained. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to be really qualified. And then I put in 20 years of practice and continuing education to be able to do this safely for people, because that's the key. Doctors take that oath, do no harm, but really when it comes to working with people's minds, that's the number one oath you should be taking is do no harm, not how do I make money doing this. So that's really the number one thing and what I'm so committed to changing in this space. But also, if you don't have the proper training, the proper education, you're not really aware of evidence-based practices, things that research has been done on over and over again to show you this is safe, there's efficacy, there's efficiency. There's effectiveness. And so if you don't have that background and you don't have that training, you can really, really harm people, even though you're very well intentioned. And most people are very well intentioned.
Yeah. It's not that they're trying to rip anybody off or just do things to make money, Kelly. That's not the case. They're well intentioned. Trust but verify.
Yes.
Anyway, okay. So how do I know I'm a successful person? how do I know that maybe I do need to work with somebody like you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see that most entrepreneurs and business owners are investing their money in the strategic and tactical side of building their business, which is a very, very important investment. We have to do that. Most of us, got into entrepreneurship because we got out of something else,
Mhm.
right? So we need to make that investment. But what I think most people don't realize, and I hope is a big takeaway from our conversation today, is you're a human being before you're a CEO, before you're a business owner, before you're a podcaster, before you're whatever hat you're wearing today. You're a human being first. And we have a lot of unique parts to us, including the mind-body connection, the mind-emotion connection, how all those things come together for you to be a good leader, healthy leader, and somebody who can really pivot and innovate and respond to some of the craziness in the world and in the business industry with confidence, with clarity, with your mental health intact. So my clients end up coming to me because they realize, you know what, I've done all the things. I've invested in all the things. I've even made the money. And you know what? I still don't feel how I want to feel. It's still impacting. I'm kind of squeezing my life into running this business, but I built this business to help me have a fuller life. And I'm kind of getting to life maybe on the weekends if I'm lucky, I'm squeezing it in. And the other thing is really they're finding acute stress to have turned into chronic stress. And we're built to handle acute things. If the pandemic had lasted 90 days, most of us would have been okay. But 2 years later, this has turned into a chronic stressor. And there's a lot of those in business. Yet we tend to overlook and downplay the work we need to do on ourselves so that we can not only grow ourselves as leaders, but really shield ourselves from the pitfalls of the stressors of life in general at the moment, but running a business as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that both of those really resonate with a lot of people right now. The idea of, yeah, I'm squeezing a little bit of my life and the things I enjoy into the weekends,
Right.
so I can spread more of that out over the course of the week.
You can, and some of it is really about what you believe deep down on a subconscious level, what you believe you can have, what you believe is possible, what you believe you're deserving of. The universal, I like to say, I mean, I'm 27 years at this, right? So the universal limiting belief I see that is not really on a conscious level for everybody, but that you were exposed to somewhere along your life journey is, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. So you can intellectually say, no, 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 I know I'm an expert. I know I'm a good person. I deserve all these good things. I deserve time off. I deserve to make more money. I deserve to have more fun. But subconsciously, we've all picked up some version. I am not blank enough, old enough, young enough, thin enough, educated enough, whatever the enough is. There's this sense of not enoughness, of inadequacy. And that will sabotage you over and over. So you may have great intentions, George, to set up your calendar and your schedule differently and manage your time differently, or hire differently so you can delegate and get some things off your plate and take back some time and energy to work out or meditate or sleep better. You may have great intentions, but if subconsciously you have a belief that you're not good enough, you will sabotage those things over. And I don't care how many time management courses you take, you will continuously pull the rug out from underneath yourself.
I don't doubt that for a second. So for the audience that's listening, that's not a psychopath, sociopath, or horrible narcissist who think without question, I am amazing and everything that I do is amazing. For the rest of us, is it just safe to assume we have something there, or how do I figure out? How do I know?
Yeah, I love this question because this is part of the human condition and nobody gets to escape it. Why? Because everybody has both a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. You can't get around that, right? But the problem is most people aren't being taught how do you work with that part of your mind that you're not even really terribly aware of. We've been kind of hammered, especially in the West, with this idea that intellect is king. And it's not. Intellect is great, and it's one of the tools in the toolbox. But if you don't learn how to use your entire mind, you're really kind of missing out on a lot of the goodness, and also on opportunities to change some of the stuff that gets in your way. So where do you start with all of this if you don't have, advanced degrees in psych, and this is just not something you're really exposed to? I'm not talking, vision boards and journaling. That's what you hear a lot about. That's not what I'm talking about. Every human being gets exposed from birth, and there's even some research that says pre-birth, to messages over and over and over, some that really help us survive and function really, really well, and other messages around things like money and gender and power and visibility and things like that trip us up a lot along the way. And that, again, it's just part of the human experience. From 0 to 6, whatever you're exposed to repeatedly, it goes directly in and it becomes a program. After 6, when you're exposed to something that gives you a strong emotional response, it can go directly into the subconscious and create a program, or what is kind of commonly known as a limiting belief. And so we can have lots of limiting beliefs subconsciously that intellectually we just don't agree with. A big one is, if I say to you, money doesn't grow on, everybody says the same thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows trees, right? That's because we've been exposed to that message culturally forever. You may not intellectually believe that, but it's still in there and it's still causing problems for you. And the way you can begin to figure out where you may have some of these subconscious beliefs that are tripping you up a bit is your business and your life are a mirror image of what you believe. So the places where you're finding a lot of ease, awesome. You have beliefs that match you creating that ease. Places where you have a pattern of struggle, not just the random thing, stuff happens, but a pattern of sabotage or struggle, or this is really, really hard. You may, and probably likely, have a belief about that thing, whether it's time or money or success or any of those things. So that's where you begin to look. And at the end of the show, I'll give you a tool. I'll give your listeners a tool. It takes 3 to 5 minutes max. It's an assessment. You go through it and you will come out with a subconscious belief that is likely tripping you up along the way.
I love it. Super powerful. And it's true, right? Those things that money doesn't grow on trees, mm-hmm. or I'm sure that there are just thousands of those.
So many.
And is it the simplicity that just embeds that in? Because we all know, a stitch in time saves 9. It's right. Whatever, right?
Right. So, the subconscious mind is so interesting. It doesn't work the same way as the conscious mind. So the conscious mind works on, we can use language, we can use lots of things to sort of reframe your thoughts. We hear a lot of this stuff like think like a boss, act like a boss. That's all, working on your conscious mind, which is powerful, but it doesn't really change a whole heck of a lot other than maybe the way you think. The subconscious mind triggers thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that turn into habits. And that's why it can be problematic. So the way the subconscious mind receives messages is not through language, although language has an impact. It's through emotion and imagery. So if you have a really, say, powerful memory with a strong emotion attached to it, whether it's positive or negative, that is the language of the subconscious mind. The other language of the subconscious mind is repetition to exposure to something. So if you got, say, for example, this is just a common one, money scarcity messages over and over and over as a kid, that is going to go in. That is going to go in because between 0 and 6, we don't have resistance. Why? Because our mind, our self-awareness, it's not really online yet. We kind of come online, so to speak, between 6 and 7. So everything just sort of goes in. But so again, the message may be simple, but really the thing that's giving it the stick, so to speak, is whether or not it has an emotional charge to it, positive or negative.
Got it. Well, that certainly makes sense. Otherwise, why would it stick, right? If
Right.
It doesn't really resonate with me positively or negative, can it can it do the same from a positive standpoint,
Oh,
or
yeah.
is it just the negative stuff that really sticks around?
No, absolutely. It can be done with the positive stuff. And it's also done with things that, I mean, we're built this way for survival, George, right? Like with most things. So we're built this way because from 0 to 6 or 7, what you're learning is, how do I survive in a family, in a community, in my school, on the playground, wherever you are growing up. So we want those positive things to sink in really, really quickly. The problem is, if you grow up in an abusive environment, a toxic environment, an environment where your basic human needs are not met consistently, those things also stick, right? So yes, it can go both ways. And a lot of the work I do with my clients is to kind of pull those things out by the roots and intentionally put unbelief in where there was one that was sabotaging you.
That makes sense. I remember Googling limiting beliefs, and everything was, or I can't remember what it was, but just the result was, it was all about unwinding negative beliefs as opposed to strengthening positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it was,
Mm-hmm.
it is curious. That's the reason I asked. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
pull out the bad ones by the root, get rid of them, and put a new one back in.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And then the brain, obviously we have confirmation bias, right? This is both problematic and helpful. So the brain is always looking for evidence of what you already believe. So if you believe something positive, you want to be scanning and celebrating and making note of all of the evidence of the positive things. The problem is, what we tend to do is like gloss right over that, especially when you're super ambitious, because you're just on to the next thing. And your brain's also scanning for risks and threats and problems all the time. So really a positive thing to work into your, say, daily habits or weekly habits is making sure you slow down long enough to not just be looking for evidence of what's not working and what's broken and how much I'm, screwing things up, which is what we do, but to intentionally look for evidence of what's going well, what's working out, where did I swing and like knock it out of the park? How is my team just killing it in business? Even the tiniest little thing. The brain doesn't care about the size of the evidence. You just have to find the evidence so you can solidify all of the positive things you already have in there, and then solidify the habits you have around that, but not unless you slow down long enough to give your brain the evidence of what is both good and what could use a little improvement.
Love it. Kelly, people are ready for your difference making tip. What do you have for them?
Don't make this mistake. It's very, very simple. Do not believe that the conscious mind is the captain of your ship. It is not. It's really easy to think that where your self-awareness lives is where all your power is. It's not. It runs about 5% of the show. So the people who really, really want to make a difference and an impact will do the work on themselves to really kind of excavate what's going on in their subconscious mind and learn how to work with it so you can make the impact that you want in the world. That is the key takeaway.
Well, I think that is great stuff. That definitely gets come on. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can they engage? And you mentioned an exercise a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah. So I am super easy to find. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I answer my own DMs. You can find me at kellyruta.com. But the best way to really get value is to go take our assessment. It's called the Invisible Saboteur Assessment. It's www.invisiblesaboteur.com. It's a 3 to 5 minute assessment, and it's going to reveal to you your pattern of self-sabotage, how it's impacting your business, and what that subconscious belief is that you picked up along the way. And by the way, you don't need to know where you got it from. This is not therapy, does not matter. You just need to know where it is and connect the dots and how it's tripping you up in all of your efforts.
Love it. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Kelly your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to kellyruta.com. It's KELLYRUTA.com. Find her on Facebook and Instagram. And I'd love to be able to direct people to the Invisible Saboteur, Kelly, but I don't know how to spell saboteur.
Oh, I so love that you admit that. That's awesome. So it's SABOTEUR. So invisiblesaboteur.com.
Excellent. Thanks again, Kelly.
Thank you, George.
And until next time, keep fighting the good fight. We are all in this together.